Hello, so I'm making this video because I have a Make It Real brand friendship bracelet maker, this device right here, and it comes with pattern templates, which I find are not too clear on how to use. If I look at the instructions that come with the book or the video online, it does clarify a couple things really well, in fact, how to install the string, how to get started with these templates, how to tie the first knot, how to tie the ending knot, things like that. Great for. But reading these templates, it wasn't too clear. I was surprised to see that there wasn't a legend or a guide that would explain the numbers, the arrow colors changing. Why is there a bubble? Why are there chevrons there? So I found that it was a little bit lacking in that regard. They did explain really well how to use two different types of templates. The two types, by the way, are first the kind of templates that follow a reading order, where you would just follow the numbers and read in reading order. So you'd follow the knots in reading order. So first you would do the first row of knots, then the second, third, fourth, etc. Whereas the second kind is following in numbers. But let me explain why it's not too clear. First, this one. If you install it correctly, it should look like so. You should have it starting in your maker right along this line. And once you use the strings, once you put the strings in, you'll have strings that are placed pretty much following the guide. So you have, if you look at number 1, you would do this kind of knot with this string and this string, right? Number 4 over here uses these two strings. Number 3, these two strings, and so on. Now let's look at reading these guides. So if I'm getting started, pretend this is installed there. I would use this kind of knot, which I won't explain in the video because Make It Real did it really well on their website and in their guide, the different kind of knot. So this kind of knot you would do with these two strings. Then you would continue in reading order to the next one, where you do this kind of knot with these two strings. The next one, you would do this kind of knot with these two strings. And finally, this kind of knot with these two strings. And you'll notice the colors of the arrows are different because the color of the arrow is the color of the leading string. So the leading string is the one that goes on top and loops around and gets pulled up into a knot. So that is the leading string. When you get to the end, you go to number 2. And then you would do a knot with these two strings. This string, leave it be, there's no knot at this time. Next, you go to this arrow here. You do this kind of knot with the strings that are now here. Then here you would do this kind of knot with the strings that are now here. And this one has no arrow. You do not do a knot. And then you would continue all the knots on line number 3, then all the knots on line number 4, and so on until this is done. The other kind of template, let's try not to get this shine. Number 1 is on this end, and it isn't in reading order. There's no line that goes across. Here we have a line that goes across. Here there's no line that goes across. Here you just follow the numbers instead. So number 1, you would do this kind of knot with those two strings. Next, number 2, this kind of knot with these two strings. Don't go to number 3. Not number 3 yet. Instead, see those chevrons? Those chevrons are telling you which direction to head because you do have a change of direction happening. So instead of going down to number 3, you go down to the next row here, where you're continuing this sequence. This is a sequence. So after you do this knot, this yellow leading string comes in this direction, and now it's a leading string between these two strings. You'll do a knot, and then you'll do a knot here with the now string that's there and this string. The sequence ends here. There's no further knot to be made here. So next you'll go on to number 3. Number 3, you make a knot with these two strings, move on to here. make a knot with these two strings that are here now, or make two knots rather. Every time I say make a knot, you're making a double knot. Moving on, you continue on in this direction. When you reach the end of the sequence, you move on to the next number, and then you do all of those knots in a sequence. So this one isn't too difficult. You're following a diagonal pattern, which I guess makes sense because you're doing a diagonal pattern right here. But what do you do when there are changes of direction, like here or here? So you don't simply have numbers following a specific one direction like you have here. Instead, you have number 2, which, well, it's a sequence of just one. Wait, where's number 1? Number 1's here. So first you would do a knot with these 2 strings. Next, you go to number 2. And after you do this knot with these 2 strings, you move to number 3. But you don't move to number 4 because if I follow this sequence, there is a second knot to do in this sequence. Now, it isn't, wait, no, this is not. Scrap that, my mistake. This is not part of number 3, this is part of number 4. And you can see that because the chevron tells you to move on in this direction. So you do number 3 and then you go on to number 4. So it can be a little confusing. As you can see, I just made the mistake again of which one to go when. So you can see that this is actually part of number 4 because the arrow tells you, these chevrons rather, tell you that you go in this direction. But after you've done this knot, and you come this way, well, this isn't part of that same sequence anymore. This is part of the number 5 sequence, and the number 5 is a sequence of 2. 10 has a sequence of 3, and then this one is part of number 11. So it's not always clear. In some cases, you have bubbles that make this clear. Now, this set did not have bubbles, but let's compare, because I do have 2 sets. There are 2 different kinds of printouts. So they did make a change at some point in their production of these guides to add bubbles, like here. These are these are the same pattern. We see what the pattern looks like, and we see the breakdown of how to do it. Now, for some reason in this kit, it was number 13, and in this kit it was number 10. Not sure why, but anyways. In this case, it kind of addressed the lack of clarity, as we saw in this one, of which one goes when, and they added these bubbles. So if I look at number 5, you'll see a bubble around it. Number 6 has a bubble around it. Number 7 has a bubble around it. So each sequence has its own bubble. And that's great. That helps. That's one of the reasons that I was finally able to figure out how to work these things, was these bubbles. But in some cases, like this one, in this case you have just one bubble for number 4, and then no other bubbles. So my advice, look over the whole pattern, try to understand it before you get started with the strings, because undoing those knots, not so fun. So in this case, start with number 1. Let's hold this a little bit better. Number 1 stops after just one knot, because if I go down to this side, there's a bead. If I go down to this side, there's a number, so it's another sequence. So take a look at the whole guide, understand it before you get started. And if you're looking for these templates, by the way, you can find them on their website, makeitrealplay.com, and just scroll down till you see this step-by-step part 2. And here you'll see the templates, and they're pretty clear, so you can follow these. And they have a lot of them on their website. Not all of them are there, but it's a great start. So you don't necessarily have to have the device and the sheets. You could use the guides, but it's definitely easier having the guides printed in this maker. So have fun. I hope this guide helped, and happy bracelet making.